My name is Frank, and today I'll be hosting tonight's seminar along with my co-host, David.
Hi, I'm David.
Today, we're lucky to be joined by our special guest speaker, who will talk about the field of commercial real estate. But before we get into her, though, I'm going to give a brief introduction of AFI, YEFA, and the Gen Z Career Exploration Seminar Series. Starting with AFI, short for Alliance for Impact. Our mission is to empower Asian Americans to participate and positively impact on all aspects of society through knowledge sharing, collaboration cross-culturally with the goal to inspire. As for impact, AFI has built a community of more than 50,000 people and more than 140 group chats. We've hosted 200 plus online events annually, provided $5.8 million worth of PPE for the tri-state New York region, and trained 3,000 plus students through the AFI Academy and more. Under AFI, we notably have YEFA, an IRS-approved 501c3 organization. Now, notably, YEFA is self-operated. This structure allows students to act as leaders and run the organization and run the majority of YEFA's operations under the guidance of adult advisors. Broadly speaking, YEFA's mission is to instill hard skills relating to entrepreneurship, finance, business, and also soft skills like management into the youth, who can then apply these skills to real-world situations and create meaningful change. YEFA achieves this in a few core ways. One, by providing top-quality resources and guidance to students to help them achieve exceptional results in business-related competitions. In addition, YEFA provides students with a vibrant community of the like-minded, equally passionate people. It regularly hosts seminars like the one you're attending right now, in which guest speakers and industry professionals give students valuable insight into their first-hand experiences. With that, we strongly encourage all students to join YEFA. The Discord will be linked in the chat. Now, this will lead us into the Gen Z Career Exploration Seminar Series, an opportunity to learn about future career options. Now, in this seminar series, we host a variety of different seminars regarding different fields of interest. Our first series, the one you're attending currently, is our Finance and Business series. Our seminars are hosted by students like us who reach out to speakers, plan, and run the seminars. Specifically, students have opportunities to get involved in activities such as marketing, event coordination, outreach, and hosting. As a YEFA member, you can help run the seminars, attend the seminars for information purposes, or do both. The Gen Z Exploration Seminars offer a variety of benefits to participating students. Not only can you learn about different fields and career paths from industry professionals, but you can connect with them as well. You can also learn how to host seminars, exercise public speaking, develop leadership skills, and use marketing, planning, and management skills. With that being said, if you're interested in joining the Gen Z Seminar Series, please join the Discord server in the chat to capitalize on this unique opportunity. Now, as a general outline for today's seminar, we're first going to hear from a guest speaker, Anna Leung, and then have an audience Q&A session where you guys will be able to share and ask questions. So now let's get into the main portion of today's seminar. Please help me welcome our honored guest speaker, Anna Leung.
Hi, everyone. Great to be here. Again, thanks a lot for organizing this event, and also thank Angeline. I've been good friends with her for a long time, and everything she does was amazing. So thanks, everyone. So today I would like to talk a little bit about the career in commercial real estate. This is an area that I've been having 17 years of experience and done quite a lot of deals. So it's an exciting career, and I'd like to share that a little bit. So one thing about the landscape of Lower Manhattan, many of you that are living in New York probably is very familiar with, is like this. So you have the One World J in the middle, and you have Brookfield Plaza, and surrounded by lots of the high rises. Have you ever wondered like how this building get built and what kind of people are behind this? I think that has to do with commercial real estate. But before we go into that kind of a detail, I just want to start with a story. So this fall, my son and daughter went to the summer camp that's also organized by Angeline to learn about the finance, and they came home and learned a lot of the skill set, and they said they want to put the skill set into a trial, and they love boba tea, so they started to think about a boba tea business. So they came up with the ideas to do these homemade boba tea, then sell it to the school communities, like the homecoming event or the movie night, those kind of thing. And so that's how they get started. First day, we went to this field and we set up our little stands here, the right-hand side of the stand. So these are the audience stand in the middle. So they set up on this side. It was a great success. I mean, a lot of the kids here, but that night it was very cold. It's hard for us to convince people to buy cold drinks. Actually, some people said, do you have anything that is hot to offer? So we changed the strategy the other day. So we asked the organizer, because we noticed that there's a food truck on the left-hand side. So we asked them if instead of we have a standalone stand on the right, can we move it to the left? And they say yes. So we also adjust our product offering. So instead of just boba, we also added like cup noodles and snacks that have some warm options. So it becomes a great turnout because the people that come to the food trucks for burgers or ice creams, they also see our stands, and there's more people inquire about what we are selling and curious about the kids doing this kind of thing, because all the others are commercial trucks. So it has a great turnout. Instead of selling 60 cups, we actually sold 90, and we also, together with the snacks and cup of noodles, it's a great outcome. So you would say, so why we're selling literally the same product, and literally the same distance from the audience, standing on the right versus on the left, what's the difference? And that has to do with the most valuable character of real estate, and that is location, location, location. Because this spot is close to the centers of everything, to the audience, to the food truck, and therefore it has more foot traffic, and therefore it sells better and generate a better outcome. And that's not something that you can replicate in finance. Like in finance, every shares of Google or Apple is the same, whereas in real estate, standing on one spot is different than the other. So what is commercial real estate? I guess most of people knows about residential real estate, usually the home that you're living in, and most of the people probably live in a home that they own. That's called owner-occupied residential real estate. And some of you may also rent an apartment, and the apartment you rent, you pay rent, but you don't own it. And those actually belongs to commercial real estate. So besides apartments, there's many other things that, as long as it's not like owner-occupied residential, like the home that you buy and you live in, most likely it falls into commercial real estate. So we look at all these office buildings, the retails, and all those kind of stuff. And you can see that the building just stay there, and you can move it. So imagine that if we, instead of a stand, like a table that we have, give you the example of the boba stands. If you are having a building that permanently located there, if you have the wrong location, it will be, the impact would be quite substantial. I think, to distinguish from like finance and corporations, a lot of the company comes and goes. I mean, they as the tenants in the Empire State Building, and over time, many of them actually move to somewhere else, and some of them even go bankrupt. But the Empire State Building, over 100 years, is still staying there and still being the landmark. So that's the amazing part of commercial real estate. It is a tangible investment. You can touch it, you can feel it, and you can also invest in it, and it produces a predictable cash flow. So this is a kind of like a bond-like return, and you don't have the risk of like stocks, like the volatility, like the stocks. So that is commercial real estate, and it stands between the stocks and the bonds. It's more kind of like a bond than the stock. So what are the typical type of commercial real estate? I would say that most of you students, the building that you go to on a daily basis, your school, is considered one kind of commercial real estate, although it's a special type because it's owner occupied. Usually the school, especially public school, they own their own buildings. And most of the private school also do, but some are renting, but that's really a small percentage. And then over the weekend, you may go shopping, and that would be considered as retail. And on the vacations, you may go to some other places and live in a hotel, and that's hospitality. And then you come home, and Amazon is delivering the package to your home from their distribution center, which is considered a type of industrial building. And many of your dads or moms are probably working in the office environment. And that is also one of the largest investment type in commercial real estate. And some of you, when you started to like go to college or just graduated and started your own career, you might end up renting an apartment than buying your own home. So those apartments that are owned by one owner and rented to many of the tenants. And of course, these are major type, but there's other special type that we call alternative real estate that is also coming into popularity, such as the self-storage and the data center, and many others too. So commercial real estate is a 21 trillion market, and the major asset type includes like office, multifamily, retail, industrials, and also hotel. And then over the past 25 years, we can see this different graphs, and the most well-performing asset type is actually apartments and industrials. Apartment is the black line, and then the industrial is that gray line. So especially over the last few years, because the online selling is actually replacing the retail. So we can see that industrials is doing well, versus retail is a little bit of a struggle, the blue line. And offices in the middle, and hotels is consistently not doing too well. So the players, the people that behind this, there are different groups, and the most obvious one probably is the developer, which are the one that build it from scratch. So they will make a piece of land and put the building in there and make it a new building. After that, it could be transferred to someone called a landlord or owner, which in this case is collecting rent and maintaining the building through leasing and renovation. It could take a long time, 10, 20 years to change hand, or it could be shorter. And these are the people that usually maintain the building and make it have high quality. And on the opposite side of the thing is the tenant who are occupying the building, using it, and paying the rent to the landlord. And then behind all that are the capital market, which include debt and equity providers. So the lenders are providing the loan, and the equity providers are providing the equity. And then down the food chain would be a lot of the third-party service providers, and we're going to go through that one by one later. So I want to talk about the two most typical process. One is about development, the other one is about investment. For development process, you don't start to do a development by digging a hole. When you started to digging holes and put the building in, it's actually quite far down the process. It started with getting the land and entitlement, which means that you go through the government agencies and get their approval through like zonings and land use and building permits, those kind. And then you'll do several rounds of like interactive iterations of designs and engineering and design what your building is going to look like. Because it's always easiest to change someone with a square site plan to a triangle or some other kind than digging holes. So when everything is done, then we started to do the construction, which is really the heavy lifting part and involve a lot of trade, a lot of people, the general contractor, and all different kind of subcontractors. It takes a few years to get it done. But the process that for the land entitlement could be short or long. For something in California, it could take years, even longer than your construction. Versus in other areas such as Texas or Florida, it may be 10 times easier. So after your constructions, you will also go through the inspections. I mean, in all the different stage, you go through the inspections. The people from the Department of Building will come and inspect it, and finally give you a certificate of occupancy, which means that now your tenants can move in. The example probably is One World Trade Center. It's really a beautiful building, and it has took like more than 11 years to to put in place. Cost over 3.9 billion, including the infrastructure of the museums and all the others. So we're not going to go through these time lapse, but I strongly suggest that you go through it and see it. It's only 2 minutes, and it goes through the entire 11 years. Very, very cool. So after the development, the next stage probably is on the investment. And investment professionals do 3 things. One is to buy it, number 2 is to manage it, and third is to sell it. Very simple, right? It actually be more complicated than that. When you buy it, you are going through the brokerage community, you bid on it, you will have to get loan and financing for it, and of course you have to negotiate and structure the deal, and most likely you're reading a lot of the legal documents and put it together. And then the asset management part of it is really long term, and there's could be involving a lot of the different parties in terms of leasing it, correcting rents, and then doing the maintenance and capital improvements. Because if you want the buildings to look brand new, you have to renovate very frequently. For hotels, especially, you need to probably renovate the lobby and the guest rooms every 7 years on average. And so there's a lot of capital need to put in to make it trendy and neat and nice. So next time when you go to a hotel, you can distinguish one thing that is like fresh and brand new versus things that looks a little bit outdated, and the one that sounds or smells outdated usually is not that welcoming, and you can see the difference. And of course, I mean, after the fund life, usually 10 years, the building would get changed hands again, and that's the sales process, where you talk to the brokers, and you will get the buyers, and you have the buyers to bid on it. So I want to do a very simple comparison with a business on how commercial real estate works. For those of you who have a little bit of knowledge about how to value a company, probably, and also investment in general, you probably will understand the concept that investment means that you pay for something that will generate return. The return could be coming from the cash flow on an annual basis, or it could come from a price appreciation when you sell it. So those are the basic concepts. You invest today, which means that money coming out of your pockets, and then you get return like down the road when you are owning it, either through the cash flow that is generating or through the sales and the return of the capital. So there's no difference between the two. The only difference is really how do you evaluate the cash flow and how do you evaluate the value, like what price you need to pay for that cash flow. So on the business, for example, we are thinking about maybe Alex that is selling a robotic part. He ran this store in an apartment building, the ground floor. So he might have a top line, a sales of 400 grand, and taking out some expense, and then he would get a net income. The precise way to say is the EBITDA, which really means earning before interest, tax, depreciation, and amortization. You just take it as like net income. So that 100 grams of the bottom line, which we call net income, and you cap at certain, sorry, you time it in certain multiples, and you get to the valuation. So the company valuation using the EBITDA and times a multiple. In this case, the rent is part of the expense, and he also have like the cost of the goods, like he buying the parts and he's selling it, reselling it. So the cost of the goods, that part probably is already quite high. So he has a pretty much like lower margins to get to the bottom line. On the other hand, for a commercial real estate, like this apartment building that Alex store is located, the landlord will collect the rent from the apartment as well as the retail part. So let's say the landlord also collects 400 grand of income, and he also happens to pay his expense to pay, and majority of it actually is just going to real estate tax. And he doesn't need a lot of people to do like the salary or the other thing. Therefore, he has an expense at like 200 grand, and he ends up with a net operating income of 200 grand. And then he using this formula like net operating income divided by the cap rate to get to the value. So let's say rule of thumb 5%. So he will actually end up with a value of 4 million. So you'll be wondering, with the same top line, why the valuation would be 1 million on one hand and then it's 4 million on the other hand. And that's a very good question. And one of the reason is on the margin. So when you are selling at the cost of goods is high because you are just reselling it, then you can't charge the margins, it's too high. And that's one of the reasons that we end up with lower margins than a real estate, because in real estate, we don't have a lot of things on the expense side. And so you can have a margin usually about 50%. Sometimes I've seen somewhere between 35 to 65% of the revenue going to the bottom line. And then the second part of the difference is really the multiple. When you're evaluating a business like this using a 10 times multiple, and you're evaluating a real estate, you're using a 5 cap. 5 cap, if you look at this formula, you can see that dividing by cap rate is really the reciprocals of the multiple. So the reciprocal of 5% is really 20. So you actually just, capping a 5 cap, it's actually multiplying by 20 times. So instead of a 10 times multiple on your commercial real estate, you're actually having a 20 times multiple. And therefore, the value is fourfold. And the reason for that is really about the quality of the cash flow as well as the exit value. So if Alex is selling these parts and he's selling at 400 grand a year, next year, it's hard for us to decide whether this product is still in good shape. And so his sales could go up or go down substantially. If his sales go down, therefore, then he may not be able to generate the same bottom line, 100 grand. Versus in a commercial real estate, if you pay rent for 40 grand, it's highly impossible that you're gonna get the reduction for 10 grand or 20 grand. And so this 400 grand of cash flow is very predictable, and usually it will go up with the inflation. So if you are having 400 this year, you are expecting you will raise the rent by 3% or 7% like last year. And your tenant will say, okay, I have to pay for inflation. And then at the exit, like 10 years down the road, when you want to sell your business, if you are lucky, like many of the unicorn, then you can have 10 times, 100 times of valuation. But most of the business are not like that. They will have to have wear and tear of their factories and machines, and they end up with very lower value. than the investment 10 years ago. Which is in commercial real estate, you are actually renting a space. Your space needs to have a little bit of like capex to make it up to date, and you may have to replace a little bit about the HVAC and mechanical, that kind. But other than that, the value would be pretty much like hold on to it. And so your exit value, if you buy it for 4 million this year, most likely 10 years later, it will be 4 million or higher. And that's why the value for commercial real estate is so high. So just keep in mind that the expense, like the rent here is an expense for a tenant. It becomes an income for the landlord. And so after we talk about the development part as well as the investment part, you may wonder, like, who is behind the scene in the investments, like financing these projects. So we have talked about that includes the lenders as well as the equity providers. Your lender, we have all different kinds, like banks and agencies, like Freddie Mac, Fannie Mae, those kinds. They are, and then there are debt funds, which are really private equity funds in commercial real estate investment that are specializing in mortgage. And you also have insurance companies. Some of them are called balance sheet lenders, which likes the banks and the insurance company. They originate the loan and they lend it themselves and they keep it in their balance sheet. The others are securitized players, such as like the CMBS market, like commercial mortgage-backed securities. So those are like investment bankers like Goldman Sachs or Wells Fargo, those kind. They will pull together all the loans that they originate, and they will segregate them into products of different ratings, like AAA and A type of thing, and then they sell those different kind of tranches to the investors in the bond market. So those are called securitized lenders. On the investor universe, these are the people that are providing equities. Most of them are institutional investors. Those are like large firms like pension funds, endowments, the sovereign wealth funds, as well as many of the the private equity funds that getting the fundings from these institutional investors. And then you may also encounter like family office and high net worth individuals. These are people that usually would buy smaller assets. And we also, probably a lot of you knows about REIT, Real Estate Investment Trust. Those are the public equity and public mortgage that you can invest in. And up to very recently, there's a crowdfunding. And these platforms provide the opportunity for individual investors to own a small piece of commercial real estate. Because before that, you would have to buy commercial real estate. You can't buy like bricks and call it a piece. You have to buy the entire thing, and it's really large. So the crowdfunding provided that opportunity to buy a portion of it. So right now, a lot of the individuals that are investing in commercial real estate probably is mainly through the public equity, like the REIT, as well as the crowdfunding. So the most important part, or maybe the most interesting part that you guys may be interested in learning, is the career path in commercial real estate. And there's many different type of players and different jobs. So I can only talk about things that I'm most familiar with, which in this case is the investment firm. So a typical investment firm, the organization chart is like this. At the top, you have these CXOs, like those are really the leaders of the firm, including the chief executive officer, the chief investment officer, the chief operating officer, and the chief financial officer. So building around them are the different departments, and most typical they will have a department for like development and construction, maybe a department for investment in terms of acquisition and disposition, and then another department for doing the asset management. And there are people that are taking care of the finance and accountings, including like the debt financing and the daily accountings. And they will usually have a strong team for fundraising, or they call it investor relationship persons. to talk to the investors. And of course, there will be everyone else, including like legal, HR, PR, and other departments as well. So in each of those departments, if you are entering it, the career path most typical would be you started with as a analyst or associate that graduated from school, and then you generally work your way up to be the VP or director. And some of them will be climbing up the ladder after many years to become the SVP or the MD level and becoming the head of a department. And a few will become the leader of the entire firm, and those are the CXO that we just mentioned. And in some public companies, these CXOs also reported to the board. And for smaller firms, sometimes the CIO, COO could also be the SVP or the MD and also be the department head. So maybe the chief investment officer is the acquisition head, and the chief operating officer is also the asset management head, things like that. But regardless, the positions, there's a lot of people that likes to come into as a like analyst and associate. You need to just work your way up. And whether it's on acquisition side or on the asset management side or the finance side, right? So besides the typical investment firms, you may also have the different players here, and they will have a slightly different functionalities, and different positions as well. So these are like people in the private equity funds. Those are your institutional investment firms. They will have personnel in the investment, maybe also in the asset management department. They also have portfolio management and fundraising. And for the debt providers, like the banks, the insurance company that are originating the loans on commercial real estate, they will have a team that is doing the origination. We call it the front end, the front desk. And then they will have people that are sitting behind, called the underwriter, which will evaluate the loan and the loan to value ratios and the risk associated with that kind. And when after they originate the loan, there will be people that are taking care of the asset management of the loan. Just want to make sure that on a monthly basis, your net operating income is in line. And then, of course, there will be departments to evaluate the risk and also compliance. And when the debt is coming to default, then there will be a department that working on the workout or transfer into a special servicer. So those are the people really at the top of the food chain, and then down the streams are all the third-party service providers. So if you do anything, there will be a lot of people that you have to talk to, and these include when you do the sales transactions, like buy or sell, you will talk to the investment sales brokers. And if you need to get a loan, you will have to talk to the appraisers and engineers to get the environmental and physical condition report and get a valuation. If you're doing development, you will have to have a team for architects and designers to do the zoning compliance analysis and then do all the designs and the drawings. And of course, you have engineers to test out, the wind and the force and all those different kind of things. And your general contractor and the subcontractor of all the different trades will come in and do the project together. And when you are in the property management part of it, there will be third-party manager or in-house, depending on the size of the firms. And people also work on the leasing part to attract tenants into the place. And so those are the leasing brokers. It could be any, and also sometimes you have in-house leasing personnel in the asset management team that work with the leasing brokers. And when you do your tenant leave for office building, you will also need to have construction managers to do the tenant improvement before the next tenants coming in to completely renovate the building. And of course, there would be a lot of consultants on the legal side, on your real estate tax, energy efficient, such as the net zero carbon emission and environmental part of it. So those big teams are also part of the service provider for the commercial real estate. And so it really involves a lot of people, and it is the reason for the AEC, the architecture, engineering, and construction industry. And the AEC industry is one of the largest in the United States. So what kind of skill set do you need to have if you want to enter into this place? I think most of the degree that is offered for the real estate is a master degrees. It's equivalent to finance and MBA, those kinds offered by the business school. So the best way to do is get a master of real estate degree. If not, it's a relevant degree such as master in finance or MBA. There will be skill sets that you need for investments. So the investment professionals, one of the major skill sets that you have to have and master very well is really financial modeling using Excel as well as Argus, which is a commercial real estate specified software. So I think that internships definitely help. So that has to do with your location, because if you are having your college education or graduate education in the city, you may be able to do internship while you are in the spring as well as the fall, on top of the summer, because summer probably is the time that most of people are trying to get internship, but the opportunities of being able to work in the springs and the fall, that probably will give you some advantage. So that probably is one consideration. And of course, you will need to know a lot of knowledge about the market, and those are only you can learn it by doing it. So people do not expect you to have a lot to begin with, but you should be able to learn very quickly. And then when you grow to the upper level of the ladder, people will expect you to be able to good at networking, deal sourcing, and negotiation. Sometimes it's really about a judgment, like whether the deal is supposed to be going forward or we have to pull it back. And it will be better to avoid 10 good deals than do one bad deal, because one bad deal you can lead to a foreclosure, then it will damage your reputation of the firm substantially. Therefore, a lot of time when we are evaluating and doing 10 times of the financial modeling, you come up and discover a lot of the risk, and sometimes we just talk ourselves out of a deal. So the willpowers to get deals done is important. Like if you think that's a deal that is weighing more pros than cons, and you want to go forward, you just have to have the willpowers to get it done. There's no question about it. And if you think that there is something that doesn't seem to be right for you, then you need to pull it out as quickly as possible, because more time spent on it, it's not going to do it anymore. So sometimes that kind of judgment, like professional judgment, is something that you train and you gain over the time. It's hard to get from day one. And of course, I mean, if you are doing development, then the design and construction knowledge would be very helpful. And if you're doing a lot of the structuring and contract negotiations on acquisitions, then the legal knowledge would be also very helpful. And finally, the mindset to be a leader, that is something that does not have to wait till you are climb up to the ladder. Basically, the investment professional, like commercial real estate, they are really the leader of the entire project. They are mobilizing all these third-party service providers and different departments, to get the one deal done. So from day one, you will have to be in a leadership position. You will have to plan out every single thing, who needs to do what by what timing, that kind of thing. And of course, when you get started, one of the habits that is most important is to be detail-oriented and well-organized, because it's really a very, very complicated process, and you need a lot of things get done, and you can't just do everything on your brain, in your brain. So being able to document everything, being able to articulate and communicate well with other people, that's very important. So I also want to tell you a little bit about my path, and hopefully it will be helpful. So in high school, I was strong in STEM. I will be participating in all kind of like competitions in physics, math, and chemistry, that kind. But at the time, we didn't really have much of like college counseling, that kind, and therefore I have no idea what a major like architecture will get me. I only know that that's one of the hottest major, and will take the highest score on the standardized test in China. So I took it. So that tells you the importance of, you know, really doing a series of college counseling, understanding what that degree is going to lead you to, and what kind of major or responsibility is going to end up. That would be very helpful. I didn't really like it. I think, you know, architecture is more about your arts, the inspiration part of it. Of course, you have to do math, and you have to know how to measure and get the drawings going. Otherwise, the building will collapse, right? But really, the strength of it is more on the art side than the science side. So I'm wondering, like, what I'm supposed to do, and I struggled for quite a while, and I want to go outside to see what the world's going to look like, and I also want to see how I can leverage on my own strength. So I applied for a PhD degrees in building constructions, and I got scholarships. So I went overseas to the US, and I got my PhDs in University of Florida, and at the same time I got my master's degrees in the business school for real estate. So my PhD degree got me the scholarship to come to the US, and my master's degree got me the career to end up with commercial real estate. And ever since then, I have I just lived happily ever since then, because commercial real estate is really an exciting industry, and it's so wonderful. I just love every minute of it. So in summary, commercial real estate has many different types, and it's huge and complicated to build, and it also involves a lot of the players. It has the investment characteristics to be like stable, low risk. It's completely the opposite of all these VCs and PE firms that talking about unicorn that, you know, you're growing 100 times or 1,000 times in a couple of years. It's kind of like the old school styles, and you have seen like inflation hedge. So you're talking about a 2 or 3% increase every single year on your income, right? That kind of thing. But it's really a very, very capital intense industry. You're talking about hundreds of millions, if not billions. So you're mobilizing a lot of people and investing in large chunks of capital, you know, to get it done. So I would think that the careers are promising if you are working on the institutional route of it. And that's basically my presentation. And thank you, everyone.